If there is one thing the internet knows how to do, it is turn a private family issue into a public courtroom before breakfast. But this latest explosion is bigger than gossip, bigger than a messy livestream clip, and bigger than yet another round of creator versus creator drama. Because when Chrisean Rock pushed back against the people behind the so-called Save Junior campaign, she did not just respond to criticism. She reignited one of the ugliest questions in online culture. When does audience concern become overreach? And when does a parent's public content invite public judgment? That is where this gets uncomfortable. Chrisean Rock says her son is getting help, says there is therapy happening, says she does not feel the need to document every medical or personal detail to satisfy strangers online. On the other side, critics argue that the public only reacts to what Chrisean Rock herself has chosen to show, and they say those clips have raised real concern for a long time. That split is the entire battlefield. Not just whether Chrisean Rock is right or wrong, but whether Chrisean Rock can reject scrutiny after building so much of her public life in front of the camera. And the reason people are still locked in on Chrisean Rock is not simply because she is controversial. It is because controversy and motherhood collide differently online. Fans might excuse chaos in a celebrity relationship. They might excuse a fight, a crash out, a reckless post, even a public feud. But once a child becomes part of the conversation, the tone changes fast. The internet stops acting like an audience and starts acting like a jury. That is exactly why this response from Chrisean Rock landed so hard. In clips circulating around commentary spaces, Chrisean Rock pushes back on the claims, pushes back on repeated CPS references, and pushes back on people she sees as falsely reporting or harassing her. Chrisean Rock's position is clear. She says people are crossing a line. She says her child is being discussed by strangers who do not know the full reality, and she frames a lot of the outrage as exploitation in its own right. But critics are not backing off. And that is where the story turns. Their argument is not simply that Chrisean Rock is being criticized because she is famous. Their argument is that Chrisean Rock is being criticized because the content exists, the clips exist, the inconsistencies exist, and the concern did not appear out of nowhere. They say the debate keeps returning because the public record keeps feeding it. Now pause there, because this is the moment that matters most. The internet almost always picks one of two lazy positions. Either every critic is a hater or every celebrity under fire must be guilty. Real life is usually messier than that. A public figure can feel harassed and still be facing legitimate public concern. A commentator can claim to be advocating for a child and still benefit from outrage, virality, and repeat engagement. Both things can be true at once, and that is why this story keeps spiraling. What makes Chrisean Rock such a magnet for this kind of reaction is the trust problem. When viewers feel they have seen too many contradictory moments, they stop giving the benefit of the doubt. And once that trust snaps, every live stream, every explanation, every denial, every emotional plea gets filtered through suspicion. At that stage, Chrisean Rock is not just fighting one allegation or one rumor. Chrisean Rock is fighting a narrative that many viewers believe has already been written. And narratives are hard to kill online, especially when commentary creators know exactly how to keep them alive. They replay old clips. They line up statements next to visuals. They contrast what was said yesterday with what appears to be happening today. They do not need a smoking gun every time. They just need enough friction to keep the audience saying, wait a second, something here doesn't add up. That is the machine. Once it starts, it rarely slows down on its own. So when Chrisean Rock says she is not exploiting her child by turning every appointment into content, that may sound reasonable to one audience. But to another audience, especially one that believes earlier moments were overshared or mishandled, that same defense sounds selective. And selective messaging is gasoline on a fire like this. Because the second viewers think Chrisean Rock shows proof only when under pressure, they start reading every act of clarification as damage control instead of truth. This is also why the Save Junior conversation is bigger than one channel, one critic, or one response. It taps into a broader tension across social media. Creators want the benefits of radical visibility until visibility becomes accountability. The same constant access that grows a brand can also destroy the protective wall between performance and parenting. Chrisean Rock is not the first public figure to learn that. She is just learning it in one of the loudest ways possible. And here is the deeper problem for Chrisean Rock. Even if some critics are excessive, even if some pages are clout-chasing, even if some accusations go too far, the most damaging version of this story does not depend on all critics being credible. It only depends on enough people believing there is a pattern. Online, perception scales faster than proof. If 10 people are reckless, but one person sounds organized, calm, and concerned, that one voice can legitimize the entire wave for thousands of viewers. That is why tone matters so much in a story like this. When Chrisean Rock sounds annoyed, some viewers hear a mother tired of harassment. Others hear someone irritated that the pressure will not disappear. When critics sound emotional, some viewers hear urgency. Others hear obsession. Almost nobody watching this comes in neutral anymore, which means every clip is being judged by people who already think they know what Chrisean Rock represents. And that is the word hanging over everything: representation. To supporters, Chrisean Rock represents survival, defiance, and a refusal to be controlled by public opinion. To critics, Chrisean Rock represents instability, inconsistency, and a pattern of choices that invite concern. Those are not minor image differences. Those are entirely different movies being projected onto the same person. So where does this go next? Probably exactly where stories like this always go: more reaction clips, more side-by-side comparisons, more calls for receipts, more arguments over what counts as concern versus harassment, and more people using the child at the center of the story as proof for whichever side they already picked. That is the tragedy in all of this. The more the internet claims to care, the more the actual child risks becoming a symbol instead of a person. And that is the only conclusion worth holding on to here. If Chrisean Rock is telling the truth about ongoing care, then the internet's appetite for spectacle is making an already difficult situation worse. But if critics are right that there are serious unresolved issues, then spectacle has also become the only language powerful enough to force attention. Either way, the system is broken. Because the people with the biggest incentives are rarely the people with the clearest view. So no, this is not just another messy celebrity clip cycle. This is a case study in what happens when parasocial culture, moral panic, creator economics, and family privacy all crash into each other in public. Chrisean Rock may believe she is pushing back against lies. Her critics may believe they are pushing for accountability. The audience may believe it is just watching the truth unfold in real time. But the truth is, by the time an issue reaches this stage online, almost everyone involved is also performing for somebody. And that is why this story is not ending soon. Because the argument is no longer only about what Chrisean Rock did, what Chrisean Rock said, or what Chrisean Rock failed to show. It is now about who gets to define responsibility in public, who gets to decide when concern becomes intrusion, and whether a creator can ever fully take back control once the audience believes it has seen too much. So now the question is not whether people will keep talking. They will. The real question is whether the next chapter brings clarity, or whether it just gives the internet another emotional clip to feed on. Because once a story moves from evidence to identity, from facts to factions, it stops behaving like a conversation. It starts behaving like a war. If you made it this far, the debate is yours. When public figures share family life online, where should the line be between accountability and intrusion? And if that line gets crossed, who is usually crossing it first? The creator, the critic, or the audience that rewards both?